Let's play a little game of perception. When you conjure an image of Alsace, what comes to mind? Almost certainly it's a vision of a village clinging to a vineyard-laced hillside, a place like Hrisi&Sami or Eguisheim, so perfectly preserved it feels like a movie set. You see a riot of color on half-timbered facades, geraniums spilling from every window box. A fairy tale so enchanting it feels almost unreal. These places are, without question, breathtakingly beautiful. They are the glittering jewels on the Alsatian crown, polished to a high sheen for the world to admire. But they are not the heart of the crown itself. For that, you must look elsewhere. You must journey a little way from the famous wine route, down from the vine-covered foothills into the wide, fertile plain of the Rhine Valley. Here, sitting solidly on the banks of the River Ill, you will find a town that doesn't immediately scream for your attention. This is Selestat. It is less a jewel box and more of a treasure chest, one that requires a key to unlock. Its beauty is quieter, its treasures less obvious. It lacks the immediate, overwhelming charm of its smaller neighbors, presenting instead the aspect of a real, working town with the attendant complexities and occasional rough edges. And yet, I would argue that to truly understand the soul of Alsace, to grasp the profound intellectual and cultural forces that shaped its golden age, you must come here. Selestat is not the prettiest face of Alsace, but it is, without a doubt, its mind and its memory. It is a library disguised as a town, and its story is one of the most compelling in the entire region. To understand Selestat, you must first understand its geography, both physical and spiritual, which is perfectly embodied in its two great ancient churches. They stand almost back to back in the heart of the old town, separated by a mere stone's throw, yet they represent two entirely different worlds, two competing sources of power that defined the city's destiny. They are a tale of two churches, and in their story lies the story of the town itself. First, there is the Church of Saint-Foy. This is a fortress of faith, a masterpiece of Alsatian Romanesque architecture. Its powerful, solid form, built from warm pink sandstone, speaks of authority, order, and imperial power. It was constructed in the 12th century, not by the citizens of Selestat, but by the Benedictine monks of Conques in southern France, at the behest of the Hohenstaufen emperors of the Holy Roman Empire. Saint-Foy was an imperial statement, a symbol of the emperor's power projected into this strategic corner of his realm. Its architecture is one of strength and solemnity. The octagonal towers, the thick walls, the rounded arches, and the relatively dark contemplative interior all contribute to a feeling of immense stability and permanence. The carvings on its portals and capitals are magnificent, filled with the strange, symbolic beasts and intricate patterns of the Romanesque imagination. To stand inside Saint-Foy is to feel the weight of centuries, to connect with a medieval world of emperors, monks, and a hierarchical, divinely ordained order. It is the church of power, flowing from the outside in. Then, just across a small square, you see the Church of St. George, and everything changes. Here, the solid, earthbound power of the Romanesque gives way to the soaring, light-filled ambition of the Gothic. St. George is the church of the citizens of Selestat themselves. Its construction began in the 13th century and continued for over 200 years, funded not by a distant emperor, but by the wealthy merchants, tanners, and guilds of the rising bourgeois class. This was their church, a testament to their own growing power, prosperity, and civic pride. Its very form is an expression of this ambition. The pointed arches, the slender pillars, the vast open space of the nave, and above all, the magnificent stained glass windows all conspire to draw the eye upwards, towards the heavens. The light that floods through the glorious 15th century windows, depicting scenes from the lives of saints and the story of creation, is a world away from the somber mystery of Saint-Foy. St. George's is a symbol of a new confidence, of a community defining itself through its own faith and its own wealth. The two churches exist in a perpetual silent dialogue, the imperial and the civic, the monastic and the mercantile, the Romanesque and the Gothic. It is in the space between these two poles that the unique spirit of Selestat was forged. So how did this provincial town, dominated by these two great churches, become a crucible of the Northern Renaissance and a capital of European humanism? The answer lies not in a castle or a cathedral, but in a school. From the mid-15th century, the Latin school of Selestat became one of the most important and innovative educational institutions north of the Alps. Under the leadership of visionary teachers like Ludwig Dringenberg, the school broke with the rigid, dogmatic traditions of medieval scholasticism. Instead of endless rote memorization and theological debate, the Latin school championed a revolutionary new approach. It taught its students to engage directly with the original classical texts of Greece and Rome. They read Cicero, Virgil, and Terence, not as filtered through centuries of commentary, but in their original Latin. They learned Greek, opening up the world of Plato, Aristotle, and the New Testament in its original language. This was the essence of humanism, a belief in the power of human reason, critical thinking, and a return to the original sources of Western thought. The school became an intellectual forge, producing a generation of scholars, reformers, and thinkers who would help shape the course of the Renaissance. The most brilliant star to emerge from this forge was a man named Beatus Rhenanus. Born in Selestat in 1485, he was the quintessential product of the Latin school's innovative environment. He went on to study in Paris and Basel, becoming a close friend, editor, and confidant of the greatest scholar of the age, Desiderius Erasmus of Rotterdam. Rhenanus was a formidable intellectual in his own right, a pioneering historian and philologist who published critical editions of Roman authors like Tacitus and Livy. He was a man at the very heart of the great intellectual currents of his time, a correspondent with the leading thinkers of Europe. An expert among Egyptologists, he put his ancient wisdom, it wasn't doubted great, into perspective. The environment created at the Latin school, with its emphasis on textual criticism and original sources, inevitably laid the groundwork for the Protestant Reformation. By teaching students to read the Bible for themselves in its original languages, it fostered a spirit of questioning and a challenge to established dogma. It is no coincidence that one of the most important figures of the Reformation in southern Germany, Martin Bucer, was also a pupil of the Select Latin school. The intellectual revolution of humanism and the spiritual revolution of the Reformation were deeply intertwined, and, for a crucial period, Selestat was at the epicenter of both. This incredible legacy, this golden age of thought and learning, is preserved today in the city's greatest treasure, the Bibliothèque Humaniste. The library is not merely a collection of old books, it is a time capsule, a direct portal into the mind of the 16th century. Its creation is the result of one of the most significant acts of cultural philanthropy in European history. And upon his death in 1547, Beatus Rhenanus, the town's most celebrated scholar, bequeathed his entire magnificent personal library to his hometown of Selestat. This was an act of extraordinary generosity and civic pride. At a time when books were immensely valuable, he entrusted his life's work to the care of his community. His collection, which forms the core of the museum, is a breathtaking snapshot of a Renaissance scholar's world. It contains over 670 leather-bound volumes from his personal library, including early printed books, or incunabula, and priceless medieval manuscripts, some dating back to the 7th century. But what makes the collection truly magical is the human touch. These are not pristine, unread copies. They are working books. The margins are filled with the handwritten notes, corrections, and comments of Beatus Rhenanus himself. You can see his thoughts taking shape, his arguments with the text, his notes to his friend Erasmus. It is an intimate and profoundly moving experience, a conversation across 5 centuries with one of the great minds of the Renaissance. This priceless collection, along with the original parish library of the Church of St. George, is now housed in a magnificent new building, seamlessly integrated with the historic Corn Exchange, where the books were long stored. Designed by the celebrated architect Rudi Riccati, who also designed the Cocteau Museum in Menton, the modern museum is a bold and beautiful space. A vast, life-giving atrium protects and showcases the historic building within, while state-of-the-art exhibition spaces use interactive displays to bring the world of humanism to life. In 2011, the entire collection was inscribed on UNESCO's Memory of the World Register, recognizing its universal value as a testament to one of the most important intellectual movements in history. The Bibliothèque Humaniste is the soul of Selestat, the enduring proof of its claim as the intellectual capital of Alsace. But Selestat is not just a city of ghosts and books. It is a living, breathing town with a charm that reveals itself more slowly, but perhaps more deeply than its neighbors. To appreciate it, one must wander beyond the main squares and delve into its network of streets. The Quai des Tanneurs, Tanner's Quarter, along the river, is a particularly picturesque area, with beautiful half-timbered houses whose upper floors and open attics were once used for drying hide. The architecture here feels authentic and lived in, less polished than in the tourist-focused villages, giving a real sense of the town's industrial and mercantile past. The weekly market on Tuesday morning is a vibrant affair, filling the streets around the two main churches with the sights and sounds of authentic Alsatian life. It is a market for locals, a place to buy fresh produce from the fertile plains of the Ried, pungent Munster cheese from the nearby Vosges Mountains, and local charcuterie. The town's civic and defensive past is also visible in its surviving towers. The Tour de l'Horloge is one of the original medieval city gates, its clock and elegant roof added in the 17th century. At the other end of the old town stands the Tour Neuve, or Witch's Tower, another powerful remnant of the fortifications that once encircled the city. Selestad's location also gives it a different character. While not directly on the wine route, it sits at its very edge, a gateway to the vineyards that begin just outside the town. But it also looks eastward, towards the unique and beautiful landscape of the Alsatian Ried. This riverine world of wetlands, meadows, and forests, crisscrossed by waterways, offers a completely different natural experience from the rolling hills of the wine country. Selestat is also the perfect base for visiting the spectacular Château du Haut Königsbourg, the mighty fortress that looms on a nearby mountain peak, offering breathtaking views over the entire Alsatian plain. The town serves as a bridge connecting the three core elements of the Alsatian landscape: the vineyards, the plain, and the mountains. In the end, one returns to the initial feeling that Selestat is a city of substance. It may not offer the instant fairy tale gratification of Hrisi or the canal-side charm of Colmar's Little Venice. Its beauty and its importance are quieter, more cerebral, requiring a little more curiosity from the visitor. It does not shout for your attention, it waits patiently to be discovered. But for those willing to look beyond the more obvious charms of the region, the rewards are immense. Visiting the picture-perfect villages of the wine route can sometimes feel like admiring a beautiful illustration in a history book. Visiting Selestat is like being invited into the library to read the book itself. It offers a deeper, more profound understanding of the powerful intellectual, spiritual, and civic forces that truly shaped the golden age of Alsace, and it stands today as the quiet, brilliant, and enduring heart of this remarkable region.